Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to Madam Emilia binti Saidin. Today, our group will present our online group project MAF603. But first, let me introduce my group members. My group members consist of me, Muhammad Syukur bin Asharuddin, Nur Ra'aina binti Azmi, Nur Efa Narishah binti Amran, Siti Arifah binti Abdul Aziz, and lastly, Siti Nur Umairah binti Abdul Aziz. Case 1. Based on the question, Trimark atau Berhad is considering three possible financial arrangements to raise RM100 million of new capital for its business. Alternative 1. Finance with only new equity. Alternative 2. Finance using 50% debt and 50% equity. Alternative 3. Finance using only new debt. So, currently, the capital structure consists of no debt and RM250 million in equity. There are 100 million shares of common stock currently outstanding, selling at RM2.50 per share. Expected earnings of RM200 million before interest and tax are expected for net period. The interest rate on any debt obtained shall be 10%. Question A. Calculate the earning per share for each alternative. Earning per share measure how much profit a company generates per common share. Higher earning per share indicate better profitability. Earning per share formula. To calculate earning per share is net income less dividend payment divided by weighted average share outstanding. To calculate earning per share for alternative 1, which is finance with only new equity, is RM200 million expected earning divided with 40 million new share plus with current 100 million share equal to RM1.43 earning per share. To calculate 40 million unit new share is RM100 million of new capital divided by RM2.50 common stock selling price per share. To calculate earning per share for alternative 2, which is finance using 50% debt and 50% equity, is RM200 million expected earning less dividend payment 10% multiply RM50 million debt divided with 20 million new share plus with current 100 million share equal to RM1.63 earning per share. Since in alternative 2, finance using 50% debt and 50% equity, RM100 million of new capital need to divide it into 2, which is equal to 50 million for debt and 50 million for equity. To get 20 million unit new share is RM50 million of new capital divided by RM2.50 common stock selling price per share. For alternative 3, to calculate earning per share, which is finance using only new debt, is RM200 million expected earning less dividend payment 10% multiply RM100 million debt divided with current 100 million share equal to RM1.90 earning per share. For alternative 3, there are no new unit share because in alternative 3, all amount of new capital was financed using only new debt. Question B. Determine the distribution of income between debt holder, shareholder, and the government for each alternative. The distribution of income will be pay interest to the bondholder first and then pay tax to the government, and lastly any excess of the net income belong to common shareholder. All the excess of the net income can be distributed to the common shareholder as dividend. Based on the table, to get the net income, we need to less interest on debt expenses, less tax expenses, and finally, we'll get net income. Interest on debt expenses will be income to debt holder, and for the tax expenses will be income for the government, and the net income will be income for shareholder. Alternative 1, income for debt holder is 0 because trademark auto berhad only finance with equity. Income for shareholder is RM150 million and income for the government is RM50 million. We assume that tax rate for company is 24%. For alternative 2, income for debt holder is RM5 million. Income for shareholder is RM149.25 million. And income for the government is RM48.75 million. For alternative 3, income for debt holder is RM10 million. Income for shareholder is RM142.5 million, and income for the government is RM47.5 million. The more debt a company has, the less tax company will have to pay because of tax shield.
In view of the benefit and expense of debt funding, the corporation agreed to issue an additional debt of RM60 million, resulting a debt-to-equity ratio of 1.5 primarily for the purpose of increasing its capital requirement. By applying Modigliani-Miller proposition, calculate the value and the overall cost of capital of trademark auto berhad. We will calculate the RO, earning after interest divided by total equity. Earning after interest is 200 minus 10% from 200 divided by total equity is 250. We will get 0.72. Next, value. Earning before interest and tax divided by RO. Earning before interest and tax is 200 divided by RO 0.72. We will get 277 ringgit.78 million. Next, we will calculate the cost of capital. B over B plus S times RB plus S over B plus S times RS. We will get the 0.72. Next, we will calculate the debt over equity. 1.5 equal to 3 over 2 or 60 over 40. RS equal to RO plus B over S, RO minus RB. 0.72 plus 60 over 40, 0.72 minus 0.1, we will get the 0.7. And lastly, debt to equity, 1.5 or 3 over 2 or 60 over 40. RS equal to RO plus B over S times RO minus RB. We will get the 1.65. D. Explain why debt levels vary across sectors and within industries. If the company had higher debt to equity, it tells that the company is financed more by debt than wholly owned funds. Depending on industry, a high debt to equity ratio can indicate a company that is riskier debt to equity ratio vary across industry because some industries are more capital intensive than others. The financial sector has one of the highest debt to equity ratios, but this is not indicate of higher risk, as this is the nature of the business.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Umairah binti Abdul Aziz, and from now on I will continue our discussion on the second case. Randy Property Berhad is planning to invest in a project which would involve in diversification into a new industry. Due to rising health cases nowadays, Randy Property plans to increase business focus in the industry related to the healthcare, that is on the diagnosis and remote monitoring of heart rhythm disorders. It will become part of Randy's Connection Care business, which offers a range of platforms and devices that allow patients to stay at home while being monitored. The management of Randy Property Berhad expected to deliver double-digit growth and improve its earning before interest and tax to more than 20% by the year 2025. The finance manager of the company has analyzed two companies that are identical in every respect except for their capital structure. Their market values are in equilibrium as follows. So given the question here, there are two companies, which is geared companies and ungeared companies. So we look at the information here. The first one, the annual profit before tax and before interest and tax, which is as known as EBIT. And the second one, less interest of the debt, which is 8%, and also tax at the 25%. This is the tax rate. Okay, so there is also the profit after tax, and also the market value of the equity and market value of the debt, and also the total market value of the company here. So let me highlight it here first. This is the interest rate, and also this is the tax rate. Okay, so we will continue. The total value of geared is higher than the total value of ungeared, which is consistent with the All profits after tax are paid out as dividends, and so there is no dividend growth. The beta value of ungeared has been calculated as 1.0. The debt capital of geared can be regarded as a risk-free. So next slide. Okay, these are the formulas that we are gonna use later for the calculation later. So we move on the question now. For the part A, calculate the followings. The cost of equity to the equity holders in the geared company. Okay, I have highlighted here the cost of equity and for the geared company. So we need to find the cost of equity, right? So look at the formula first. Here, since this company are the company that pay the taxes, so we look at here formula with taxes, and also they say to find the cost of equity for the geared company. So we look at the under the levered here formula. So these three are the formulas that we will use for the calculation. And to find the cost of equity, we have to use the second formula here, the RS equals to RO1. But the problem is here, we already have all the information needed for this formula, except for the RO, the value of RO. We don't have the value of RO yet. But what do is, if we look at the first formula here, to find the value of the company, they also need to find the value of RO, right? So the tips here, we will use this formula to find the value of RO, since since the value of company they're already given in the question just now. We look at the question first. This one, the total market value of company. Yes, for the geared company here. Okay, So for the solution, as I mentioned, we will find the RO first, but in order to find the RO, we will use this formula. So we insert all the information in this formula: the value of the company, EBIT, 1 minus the tax rate, 25%, plus, don't forget the plus sign, plus the tax rate times with the debt. The tax rate, okay, don't be confused here, okay. This is not the interest rate, okay. This is the tax rate of 25% times with the debt, the value of the debt. So over with RO. So and after using the basic mathematical calculation, we will get the answer of 0.22, and we need to convert it into the percentage form, which is 22%. So now we already found the amount of RO, the value of RO. So after that, we can find the value, the cost of PT by using this formula, the second formula. So next, this one, the formula of RS. We just insert all the informations we gathered earlier for the RO. We have calculated just now. We insert the value of the debt, the value of equity, the value of RO, and the interest rate of 8%. And since this is company that pay taxes, so we need to minus the tax of the 1 minus 25%. So we calculate it, we will get the answer of 0.33, and we need to convert it into the percentage form, which is 33%. So now for the first question, we already find the cost of PT for the kit company. Move on to the second question. Beta value of geared using the asset beta formula, and explain the calculated beta. Given here is the formula of asset beta. We have the beta value of ungeared, the beta value of geared, and so on. The value of equity, the value of the debt, and the tax rate. Here is the information we have gathered, which is the beta value of ungeared, 1.0, given in the question, and we need to find now is the beta value of geared. So this is the value of equity, the value of the debt, and the tax rate 25%. So what do we do now? We just insert all the information given, all the information we have into this formula. Okay, this one. This is for the ungeared beta value. We insert here 1.0. We leave it here the beta value of geared, since we need to find it, and this we times with the value of equity over the value of equity plus the value of the debt, and minus the tax rate 25%. So we calculate it, and we will get the answer of 1.8, the beta value of geared of 1.8. Okay, finish with the calculation. Now we need to explain the calculated beta. Here, the geared beta which is 1.8 is higher than the ungeared beta 1.0. This which means the company will have to face extra financial risk due to leverage of the company. all these are consistent with the connection between MM theory and the CAPM, which is the beta value of the gate company will be higher than the beta value of ungate company, even though the company is identical in every respect, except that it is the all equity finance. Now I have finished explaining all the answer for the part A, and I'll pass it to the next person. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, next to B, explain the leverage effect and the implication to companies. If earnings are insufficient to cover interest obligations, leverage refers to the amount of debt a firm uses to finance the assets. When company is financed with leverage, the company equally imminent to a greater decreases in stockholders' earnings. If earnings are insufficient to cover the interest obligation, as the firm increases its borrowing, the financial risk borne by the shareholders will increase. So in turn, the shareholders will demand for a higher return to compensate them for carrying additional risk. This will result in an increase in the cost of equity. The weighted average cost of capital, WACC, will decline because the higher proportion of cheaper debt coupled with tax shield benefits outweighs the increase in the cost of equity.
Discuss the relationship between financial distress and capital structure and propose the consideration to be addressed by using debt financing. The relationship between financial distress and capital structure is that the firm with higher probability of financial distress will issue less debt, which is the capital structure. Firstly, the consideration to be addressed by using debt financing is borrowing requirement. The lenders will look at many things when deciding to issue a loan. The factors that the lenders may look at are debt to equity ratios, fixed monthly expenses, overall business plan, and others. This is why your business needs to plan its financing strategy properly. Next, we need to consider about the future repayment terms. There are many loans with repayment terms which are more complicated. For example, when borrowing from a single venture capitalist, they may be able to dictate additional terms that are not found in traditional bank loans.